Hello, everyone. Welcome to Story Time. I wanted to share something with you guys today that happened to me. I was on my way to meet Brent for coffee, and when I got into the car and turned it on, the radio automatically popped on with a pastor who was in the middle of a pretty interesting and profound story. As I listened to it and kind of was a little bit in shock by the moral of the story, I thought I wanted to share it with you guys because we've all experienced things like this before in our life, or we've known others that have experienced it. And I just thought it was something that you might resonate with, or that you might be able to take something, and use it in your day-to-day life. So the story is called The Window, and I'm going to go ahead and read it for you. And hopefully, I will do it justice the way that this very charismatic pastor did as well.
The Window. There were two men, both seriously ill, who occupied the same hospital room. Although it was difficult for him, one of the men was allowed to sit up in his bed for an hour a day to drain the fluids from his lungs. His bed was next to the room's only window. The other man had to spend all his time flat on his back. These men talked for hours on end. They became very, very good friends. They spoke of their wives and their families, their homes, their jobs, and their involvement in the military service, and even where they spent their vacations. Every afternoon, when the man in the bed next to the window could struggle to sit up, he would pass the time by describing to his roommate all the things he could see outside that one lone window. How the man in the other bed would live for those 1 hour periods where his world would be broadened and enlivened by all the activity and color of the outside world. The window overlooked a park with a lovely lake. The man described ducks and swans playing on the shimmering water while the children sailed their model boats, beautiful women in summer dresses and lovers walking hand in hand amid the blooming flowers with every color of the rainbow. Grand old trees graced the landscape, and a fine view of the city skyline could be seen in the distance. As the man by the window described all this in exquisite detail, the man on the other side of the room would close his eyes and imagine the picturesque scene. He would think so much about it that he could start to smell the smells and taste the tastes, and he felt as if he could transform into the stories themselves and experience all the different adventures that he was hearing from the other man. One warm afternoon, the man by the window described a parade passing by. Although the other man could not hear the band, he could see it in his mind's eye as the gentleman by the window portrayed it with vivid and descriptive words. Unexpectedly, an alien thought entered his head. Why should he have all the pleasure of seeing everything while I never get to see anything, he thought. It didn't seem fair. As this thinking fermented, the man felt ashamed at first. But as the days passed and he missed seeing more sights, his envy eroded into resentment and soon turned him sour. He was so jealous. He began to brood and found himself unable to sleep. He would toss and turn, thinking of all of the different things that it was unfair that he didn't get to see. He should be by that window, he thought. And this unrelenting notion now controlled his life. He could not stop thinking about it. He could no longer enjoy the stories as the man relayed them to him. Instead, he could only think about how unfair it was that he wasn't the one by the window able to see them himself. Late one night, as he lay staring at the ceiling, thinking mean thoughts about the fact that he had no window to enjoy, the sick man by the window began to cough. He was choking on the fluid in his lungs. The other man watched in the dimly lit room as the struggling man by the window groped for the button to call for help. Listening to the futile efforts being made, the man across the room never moved, never pushed his own button that would have brought the nurse running. In less than 5 minutes, the coughing and choking stopped, along with the sound of breathing, and now there was only silence, a deathly silence. The following morning, the day nurse arrived to bring water for their baths. When she found the lifeless body of the man by the window, she was saddened and called the hospital attendant to take the body away. There were no words and no fuss. As soon as it seemed appropriate, the man asked if he could be moved next to the window. The nurse was happy to make the switch, and after making sure he was comfortable, she left him alone. Slowly and painfully, he propped himself up on one elbow to take his very first look. Finally, he would have the joy of seeing it all himself. Finally, he was overjoyed, for now he could see the park, the parades, the beautiful women in their sundresses, and all the activity that was described to him by his roommate. He strained to sit up, and after much effort, he slowly turned to look out the window beside the bed. And to his horror, the window was surrounded by a blank cement wall. The man was beside himself with shock. He pressed the button to call the nurse, and he asked, what could have compelled my roommate to describe such detailed and wonderful things outside this window? There's nothing to see. Where are all the wonderful things he saw? Is this a new and recent wall? He asked in a panic. Why did he give me such vivid details that don't exist? The nurse shook her head sadly and answered his question with a shake of her head. Perhaps he just wanted to encourage you and make you happy. You see, your roommate was totally blind.
I hope you guys enjoyed that story as much as I did. Sometimes we are so consumed with negative trauma experiences, jealousy, fear, anger, that we are unable to see the blessings that we have been given. In this story, the man had been blessed with a roommate that was ministering to him because he cared about him. He wanted to help him and make his day a little bit brighter, because as a blind man, he knew what it was like to not be able to see the things that, would bring you joy. He felt for the man in the bed next to him who was unable to sit up and just wanted to bring some sunshine into his world. So, he made up with his imagination all of these beautiful scenarios that really did uplift this man so much. It was so important to him, which is what ultimately led him to becoming jealous and envious of what he thought was this other man's blessing, not realizing that this man, this blind man, was his blessing. The one that was truly blind in that room was the man who was laying down and couldn't stand up and couldn't see out the window. It wasn't until he lost the blessing that he realized what the blessing really truly was. So many times things like this happen to us, and sometimes in order to know what we do want and what we do appreciate, we do have to lose the things that we love in order to really deeply appreciate our blessings. If we understand how important gratitude is and stay in that place of appreciating and looking around and recognizing our abundance, we will see that there really is never a day that we don't have things to be appreciative of, that we don't have blessings. Life is always a mixed bag of ups and downs, and so much of our experience really is the story that we tell ourselves. It's the perceptions that we choose to give our attention to that become our reality. That's why it's so incredibly important to tend to those and recognize that what we feed is what manifests or grows in our garden of life. We are the ones that get to decide where we put that attention and where we put that energy and what we feed. I would urge each and every one of you that as you're going through your day-to-day lives to stop, breathe, be present in the moment, and really take a look at what you're grateful for. And if you're ever going through periods of time where you're feeling jealous or you're feeling anger or you're feeling frustration, notice it, stop yourself, and replace it with something that you're grateful for. Because when we stay in a place of gratitude, life gives us more to be grateful for. I love you guys. I hope this resonated with you. I so appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps us out a lot right now. And until our next story, I bid you farewell.